The answer is always, every single time, the answer is no if you don't ask. If you don't ask, the answer is going to be no. So what's the worst somebody can say if you do ask? No. But if you don't go ask, guess what? That's already your answer.
USA! I put on for my soldiers, though they had to swear me in. Young, humble motherfucker, but my hustle arrogant. Got it all off the muscle like I'm damn Bilzerian. Make this trap great again. I'm a proud American.
Welcome back to Life, Liberty, and Real Talk. Appreciate y'all listening, tuning in. If you like what you hear, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Life, Liberty, RT. Today, we're going to talk about confidence, and more importantly, self-confidence, because it's such a key component of being successful in life, is believing that you can do what you're going to try and put your mind to. And if you don't believe you can do it, you're never going to. So let's look at what confidence is. I mean, when you look at self-confidence, it's almost like a feeling of self-assurance, appreciation of your own abilities or qualities. Pretty much it's the art of just not giving a fuck what other people think. But why do people lack confidence? Some of it definitely does stem from your genetic makeup. That's, definitely a thing. But that can always be overcome. Another reason is honestly misinformation. Most people think that in order to act confident, you have to actually physically feel confident. That's not necessarily true either. You hear all the time the fake it till you make it. I more like to shift that saying to emulate it until you become it. You might not be very self-confident, that's fine. But the more confident you can get yourself to act towards other people, and it's not faking it by any means, but you're attempting to seem confident in order to gain confidence, because when people see you acting confident, you are going to get positive feedback from that, from the outside world, and then you will start to become more and more confident. Another reason why people aren't necessarily the most confident is maybe life experiences in the past, trauma. Maybe they were bullied in elementary, junior high, high school, whatever it may be. I struggled with this a lot. Growing up, I had just moved to Iowa in third grade. I was the new kid, and all through elementary school, I got bullied very, very heavily. That took a huge toll on my mental state. I thought I was a piece of shit. I didn't think that I would amount to anything. But, fast forward to junior high, but mostly into high school, a lot of the kids that used to bully me pretty heavily, like I would come home in tears and just cry to my parents, didn't want to go to school. I'm sure tons and tons of people had it much, much worse than I did. But at the time, it was hard. But then in high school, fast forward, junior high a little bit, but mostly high school, I became really good friends with the kids that, used to bully me. And I think it was because there was a turning point about freshman, sophomore year of high school where I realized, why the hell should I care what other people think? And I just simply started living my true life. I didn't try and fit in. I was kind of forced to be around a lot of these kids due to sports. And I found once that I kind of stopped giving a shit what anybody thought of me and just living my life and just being confident in who I was, people started to come around. I started to make friends with the kids that used to give me a hard time in, elementary and junior high. And to this day, they're still some of the best friends I've ever had. And it was all because I took that step of, what? Why the hell should I care what other people think? Like, I wasn't always a confident person. I had to teach myself to be confident by not caring what others think. And I think a lot of people don't think that confidence can be gained or learned, but it totally can. It's a total mindset. You can definitely shift your brain from the little voice that says you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it, to just being a machine that believes in yourself at all times. I don't care what I'm jumping into. I always jump into it with the mindset that I'm going to absolutely crush it. Does it always happen? Hell no. No, it doesn't. But in my mind, I'm going to dominate it every single thing I do. And I walk into it with the utmost confidence that I'm just going to blow it up. And you know what? Most of the time, it works. Most of the time, it does work, because if you manifest it in your brain, it's going to come to fruition. So today, I mostly want to talk about not the lack of confidence, but how one can gain confidence. And in order to dive into that, I think what we need to look at is, what are the biggest reasons that people are not confident? I would say number one on that list, excluding, mental health reasons and all that stuff, because I know that can take a huge toll on people. But I think number one reason why most people lack confidence is fear of rejection. 100%. They want to be timid and kind of back in their own world, because if they step out and be themselves and are truly, confident in their own skin, they fear that people will reject them. And that is a huge, huge fear. And it's very real for a lot of people. I've learned over the years to face rejection head on and use it to my advantage and my benefit. But a lot of people don't learn that. So let's talk about, in order to gain confidence, let's talk about overcoming rejection. If you fear rejection, let's parallel this to if you're bad at basketball, what do you do? What do you do to get better? You practice it, right? You start small. You might start shooting layups, and then maybe graduate to free throws, and then eventually 3-pointers, and then maybe you practice your dribble moves. You perfect your craft. Same thing goes with any aspect of life. How do you get better? How do you get more comfortable with something? You do it habitually over and over. So in order to get familiar and face rejection head on, what do you have to do? You literally have to seek out rejection and force yourself to get comfortable with it over and over and over. And that's daunting. That's scary. I mean, in my job, what do? I call people on the phone that I've never talked to ever in my life, and I try and sell them on why they need what I'm trying to sell. That's tough. I've been doing sales now for a little over a year, and when I first got into this industry, it was very daunting to pick up the phone and call a total stranger that was not expecting my call and try and share with them the value of what I was pitching. 29 times out of 30, you're just going to get told to piss off. And that can take a toll on your mental state. It did at first with me. My first couple months, I would get rejected 2 or 3 times in a row, and I would take it personally, and I wouldn't want to make another phone call. But at the end of the day, if I didn't make another phone call, I would lose out on the chance of making any money, making a living. I would lose out on the chance. What if the next 5 calls were amazing and 3 of them signed on as clients? You never know. So I really had to, I had gotten okay at facing rejection in person with people I knew, and I was very comfortable just being myself completely authentically. And if people gave me shit for it, whatever, it just goes right over my head. But I'd never been thrown into this situation where I just continually all day get told to screw off by total strangers. And it was weird. But what I ended up learning, and what I think is one of the most valuable things to learn in life, is if, just for example, you're trying to sell somebody something, and they instantly tell you, no, not interested. Well, they're very well may not be rejecting you personally. And honestly, 99% of the time, they're not rejecting you personally, but they're rejecting what you're trying to say. They're rejecting what you're trying to sell them, what you're trying to meet them with. This happens in real life too. Maybe you tell your friend to go watch a movie that you liked, and your friend's like, no, why the hell would I do that? They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting the movie that you are suggesting. They're still going to move on, and you guys are going to go, have dinner, have drinks, whatever it may be, and everything's going to be fine. But they rejected you in that one instance because of the movie that you suggested. And that maybe they don't like comedies, and that's what you suggested, and they'd rather watch an action movie. Okay, well then the next time, you suggest a movie, it's an action movie, and then they're like, oh yeah, no, that's a great movie. That's awesome. They're not rejecting you for you. They're rejecting what you're putting in front of them. And that is a totally, totally different story. When you can internalize the fact that it's not a personal rejection, that they're rejecting what you're bringing to the table, oh my goodness, it is a world's difference in life. I want to talk about, there was this guy who grew up in Beijing, and at 6 years old, he faced rejection in school. And there was one instance where his teacher had this idea where he wanted to give every kid a gift and then have every kid say a compliment about another kid. So they're going down the line, the teacher's giving out the gifts. Every kid is saying a compliment about somebody. And then down to the end of it, there are 3 kids left. And this teacher is feeling horrible. She's just begging and begging. Like, does anybody have something good to say about these 3 kids? And nobody stood up. Well, this guy, Jia Jiang, he was one of those 3 kids, and he internalized that. Fast forward to when he was about 14, Bill Gates visited his home city of Beijing, and he saw Bill Gates and instantly fell in love with the idea of becoming an entrepreneur, owning your own business, starting a company, growing it. And he said to his parents, he wrote him a letter that day, and he said, I will build a company bigger than Microsoft. He had confidence. He had a shift from when he was 6 to when he was 14. Confidence. Now fast forward, he's in his 20s, gets the chance to move to America, and he thinks, oh, well, that's where Bill Gates is. So that's where I'm going to go. That's where I'm going to start a business. That's where I'm going to become an entrepreneur. But then he gets there and gets, a normal job, gets in the corporate rat race, doesn't start a company till he's 30. And then he's trying to get funding. He's trying to sell. He's trying to do all this stuff, and he keeps getting rejected. And he gets to a point where he wants to quit. And what he comes up with in order to not quit, because he remembers his 14-year-old self and the dreams that he had. And what he thinks about, what he ends up doing is he looks up how to face rejection, and he finds this 30-day challenge where you go and seek out rejection for 30 days straight in order to overcome your fear and gain confidence. So he shifted that a little bit, and he did 100 days of rejection. He sought out rejection, faced it, and in turn gained more confidence. So day 1, what does he do? Day 1, he goes up and asks a stranger if he can have $100. Not very many people are going to say yes. Pretty good chance you are going to get rejected on that. So he goes up to a stranger, says, hey, sir, can I have $100? And the guy says, no. Why? He gave him a chance to explain himself, but Jia ended up just walking away, running away. He was scared. He didn't face the rejection. He got home. He videoed all these also. So he got home. He was rewatching the video over and over. And he said, that guy gave me a chance to explain myself. I could have possibly convinced him to give me that $100. But what did I do? I got rejected. The idea of giving me $100. The guy asked why, and I left. I didn't tell him why. So then the next day, what does he do? He goes to a fast food joint, eats his burger, fries, and a drink, and then he goes up with the burger wrapper, and just like one would do with a fountain drink, he asks for a burger refill. And the manager says, what the hell's a burger refill? What? We don't do that. And he said, no, just like you'd refill a soft drink. I really like your guys' burgers, and I think I would come here a lot more often if you guys did burger refills. And he didn't get one, but the guy said, you know what? I'll put a word in with the owner. He got one step further. Obviously that it was an unrealistic ask, but he faced the rejection. He told the person why. Next day, he goes to Krispy Kreme Donuts, and he has this idea. He's going to ask them to make a donut in the shape of the Olympic logo, the 5 rings. And he goes up to the counter, says, I want this with all the colors and 5 donuts all attached together. And the person at the counter is like, what? You want what? And he keeps explaining it. And all of a sudden, the woman working behind the counter, she gets out a notebook and she starts doodling the logo and the different colors and mapping it out. And about 15 minutes later, he gets handed a box with an Olympic logo donut. 5 rings right there. When she said, what? No, why? If he would have just walked away, he wouldn't have got that donut. But he explained to her what he wanted, and she did it. That was the first positive facing rejection he had had. The next day, day 4, he goes out with an unplanted flower. He knocks on a random stranger's door, and he asks, can I plant this flower in your backyard? And the guy says, no. Well, he could have done what he did on day 1 and just walked away, but instead he didn't. He faced the rejection, and he said, well, can I ask why? And the stranger ended up telling him that he had a dog that tore up anything he tried to plant in the backyard. If he would have just walked away after that, he might have thought that guy was rejecting him because he didn't trust him, or rejecting him because he didn't like him. But he asked why. And the guy told him he had a concrete reason. The product that he was trying to give that guy, plant a flower in his backyard, didn't fit for that guy's situation. But you know what that guy said? He said, you know what? Go across the street to our neighbor, Connie. She loves flowers. She'll probably let you plant it. He goes across the way there, knocks on Connie's door, and Connie was ecstatic to let him plant that flower in her backyard. He got rejected. He asked why, and he ended up getting a referral out of it. That translates 100% to business, 100% to your life. Let's say you're interviewing for a job, and you get rejected for the job. Well, maybe you weren't the best candidate for that job, but maybe you made a good impression on them. If you don't ask why, if you don't ask further questions, then you might just think, okay, whatever, they hated me. I blew the interview, whatever. But if you go to that person and, okay, they rejected you for the job, and you say, I'd like to learn from this situation. Like, what could I do differently next time around in order to be a better candidate? And if they explain that, well, we had another candidate that fit better, but maybe they say, oh, we'll keep you open for this next position, or you might fit better here with us, or hey, my buddy runs this company that I think you'd fit well at. You might get a referral. Who knows? So if you don't ask why, if you don't face the rejection, you'll never know. Maybe the offer doesn't fit the person that you're trying to offer, but maybe they know somebody it does. Maybe you want to think they're rejecting you for you, but in reality, they're rejecting what you're trying to offer. And if you internalize that, you're able to face rejection head on because it simply just doesn't bother you. It just doesn't. I call 30 random strangers every single day. And you know what? Maybe they'll reject me the next 35 months in a row. But guess what? I'm going to pick up the phone because a lot of these people, I've called somebody the last 6 months, every 2 weeks to every 4 weeks, checking in on them. And we have a 20-minute conversation every time. They're more than happy to talk to me. I always add value to their day. And they might never work with me. Never. But if I keep up, talking to them, right now they don't see value in what I have to offer, but they see value in me. They're always happy to pick up the phone. I have this guy's cell phone number. He interacts with all my posts on LinkedIn. We have a decent relationship forming. He just doesn't necessarily see a need for the product I'm putting in front of him. Well, maybe 5 years down the road, we have something else to offer, and I call that guy, and that sticks out to him. He's not rejecting me as a person. He's rejecting what I'm putting in front of him. That is the biggest thing you have to learn in your life, is to just be confident and be able to face rejection. Because I guarantee you, the day you do that, everything in your life will be better. So back to the 100 days of rejection, day 5. What does he do? He goes to Starbucks, talks to the manager, and asks the manager if he can be a Starbucks greeter, like they have at the door in Walmart. I've never seen that in a Starbucks. It's a weird ask. But the manager said no. And he was like, no, why? And so Gia, I think that's his name. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm definitely butchering it. But he goes to the manager and he's like, well, yeah, is that weird? Is it weird to ask that? He stated out loud the objection that he believed that guy had. And the manager was like, yeah, it's a little weird. But now he realizes that they both kind of think it's weird, and he no longer thinks he's a weird person. He just thinks what he's asking to do is weird. And he ends up saying, you know what, I know it's weird, but I'd like to do it. So the manager said, okay. And he was a greeter at Starbucks for an hour. If he wouldn't have called out the guy's objection and said, you know what, yeah, I know this is weird, but it's something I want to do, the guy would have just said no, and he would have thought that manager thought he was the weirdest dude in the world. But he faced rejection, he asked questions, and he got what he wanted. That's, at the end of the day, everything in life, confidence, facing rejection, mindset. It's all, at the end of the day, everybody wants to get what they want in life, what they want in business, what they want in school, fill in the blank. But if you don't have the confidence to step up and go after what you want, you're going to stay stagnant. It goes back to the last episode talking about just being in a state of growth, doing things that are uncomfortable. Rejection's uncomfortable. But if you can learn to get comfortable with it, it no longer bothers you, and you'll be way more confident. I want to talk just one more day, day 6. He was living in Austin at the time, and he went to UT, the University of Texas, and he asked a bunch of professors if he could teach a class, just one, just give a lecture. And the first time around, all the professors said, no, we don't know you. Why would we let you teach a class? Well, then a month later, he went back, asked the same group of 10 business professors, hey, can I teach a lecture? Just one. He came with a slide deck prepared and everything. He said, can I teach a lecture on rejection? Again, they said no. A month later, he goes back, asks all the same professors again, hey, I really, really think this would be valuable to your students. I want to teach a lecture on rejection. Finally, one of the professors was like, you know what? I think I have a spot for you. Come back in 2 months' time. I think I can fit you in, and you'll give the lecture that day. And you know what he did? He literally taught a college class. He had no business doing that. He had no background in it, but He followed up, he faced rejection 3 times over, and eventually somebody said yes. At the end of the day, anything you're asking for, it only takes one yes for success. Just one. You could get turned down 100 times, but on the 101st time, if you ask for it and they say yes, you're in. It was a success. But if you don't follow up, if you don't continually face rejection, things change. You might ask somebody for something today and they might not be interested. But you don't know, 6 months down the road, maybe things have changed in their life where now they're in a spot. Same thing happened to me in my job. There was a guy that I had been a shoe retailer that I had been calling on for a couple months, and they had said, no, not right now, not right now, not right now. Well, something changed. Their revenue was, lower than it might have been. And they saw the need for our digital marketing services. And one day I call him, we're chatting, and I'm sharing with him some results we got for one of our current clients. And you know what? He said, yeah, I think it's time I look into this. I know it's valuable. Let's set up a meeting we can go through. Well, he ended up becoming a client, and we're crushing it for him. And I guarantee you he'll never leave. But at the time, he didn't see value in it until his situation changed, and then he did. And now he's probably kicking himself for saying no for those 4 or 5 months that he did. The answer is always, every single time, the answer is no if you don't ask. If you don't ask, the answer is going to be no. So what's the worst somebody can say if you do ask? No. But if you don't go ask, guess what? That's already your answer. But if you go ask, you have the chance for a yes. If you go face somebody and try and do something you want, you know what? Chances are you might fail. But if you don't attempt it, you already failed. And to me, that scares the shit out of me. If I don't take an opportunity, even knowing that I might be going into failure, if I have even the smallest chance of success in any situation, I'm going to go after it if it's something that I want. Because the flip side is failure, automatic failure. If you don't even put in the effort, if you don't try, if you're scared of the rejection and you don't actually go out and do something, ask for something, whatever it may be, fill in the blank, it's an automatic rejection. Yeah, sure, you don't actually get the feeling of somebody rejecting you, but you're at the same spot. There's literally no one will ever say yes to a question that isn't asked. You have to just go for it. Don't let rejection define you. Embrace it, learn to overcome it, and turn rejection into opportunities. You cannot care what others think about you. No matter what you're doing in life, if it's something that you're passionate in, go for it. There's always going to be haters. You start a new business, people are going to say, oh, that's not going to work, whatever. You're not going to make this happen. And then eventually, guess what? You keep grinding, you keep doing, and you will make it happen. And those people will see you as an overnight success, and they'll say, wow, wow, this seemed to happen overnight. And you're like, no, that whole time that you were telling me I couldn't do it, I was grinding. And guess what? I proved you wrong. When somebody tells me that I can't do something, it gives me so much more of a drive to want to do it. For example, let's just keep paralleling it to what I do for work, but in sales, I might get told to fuck off by somebody. Somebody might be really rude to me, but you know what? That drives me. And what do? I look up their closest competitor on Google and I give them a call. I've gotten clients that way because it fuels me. The rejection fuels me to seek out a better opportunity. I face rejection, I embrace it, and I use it to my advantage rather than letting it just bring me down, kill my confidence. It builds my confidence. It makes me want to go after it even harder, work for it even more. They were rejecting the thing I was selling, not me. That's what I think about all day when I'm on the phones and I get rejected 3 to 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 10 times, 20 times, 30 times a day. But, like I said before, I kept following up with this guy and he kept saying no. And guess what? Eventually He said yes. As soon as I set in front of them some information that actually was valuable to their situation, they were on board. Don't run from rejection. Face it head on, embrace it, and let it drive you. Let it be a driving force in your life. And I guarantee you, every aspect of your life will get better if you learn to face rejection and become more confident. Ask questions, figure it out, figure out why the rejection is happening, and handle it accordingly. And you know what, at the end of the day, you still might not get what you want, but that's fine. Same goes for, when you're dating. If you go out to a bar and you see an attractive guy or an attractive girl, and you're afraid to go talk to them because you're afraid of getting rejected, then you may as well have gotten rejected already. But if you don't go up and talk to them, there's a 0% chance of a yes. The worst thing somebody can say is no. But if you don't try, it's already a no. The fear of rejection is real. Fear is real. I'm not saying that it's completely unorthodox to be scared of rejection. I still go into situations with fear of being rejected. It's daunting. But get comfortable facing rejection, and I promise you, you will be more confident. You will see an immediate change in your life. You'll see a shift towards being able to ask anyone for anything, and eventually somebody will say yes. Eventually somebody will say yes. If you're able to go up and ask anybody for anything, that is one of the greatest skills you can learn. If you're confident enough to go up to anybody, I would literally go up to anybody and ask them for just about anything. Because at the end of the day, you know what? If they say no, if they tell me to piss off, it doesn't affect me. I truly don't care, because I've learned to face rejection. I've learned to just let it go right over my head. It doesn't bother me because I'm confident in my own abilities. I'm confident that I can do whatever the hell I put my mind to if I just keep going, keep moving forward. And so many people are scared to death of getting rejected. And I get it. I've been there. I've been there in my life. But at what point are you going to say, you know what? I need to get better at this. The fear should drive you to want to erase it, because nobody likes the feeling of fear. True bravery at its core is not somebody that has no fear. That's not a thing. Everybody has fears. Bravery is going into a situation with fear and still just trucking and going and hitting it head on. Everybody has fear. Everybody. Nobody I've ever met in my life is without fear. The only person that has ever been without fear and without flaw is Jesus Christ himself. Nobody else. So why then are other people fearless in other people's minds? Because they have the bravery to step up and conquer that fear. They have the confidence to go into a situation and not care what the outcome is, because it won't affect them. Because if something bad happens, if they get rejected, guess what? They get up and they move on to the next thing. It makes your life so much better. It makes everything around you so much easier. If you don't live with that fear of being rejected and you have that self-confidence to step up. I challenge you this. Do an evaluation of your life, of your last 5 years, last 10 years, whatever. And think of the times where you regret not stepping up and asking for something, not doing something because you feared rejection. You didn't have the confidence to do it. And think about what would have been different if you would have gone out, asked for what you want, stepped out on the ledge, tried something new without the fear of being rejected by society, friends, family, whatever it may be. How would your life have changed? Use that regret of whatever situations in the last however many years that you feared rejection and didn't jump out and just do something, and use that. Use that to propel you to want to get better at it. Start small. Go up to a random stranger and ask them for money. It's really easy. Go to Walmart, ask somebody for $50. They're going to say no. Who wouldn't say no? But guess what? You just faced rejection. Learn from it. Go out, face rejection, get out on that ledge and do something. Because if you don't do something, you're going to live the rest of your life in a little box, sheltered, because you're scared to just go out and get shit done. I don't know about you, but that's not a fear that I'm willing to live with the rest of my life. So I went out and I changed it. I overcame my fear of rejection, and I'm still working on it. Like I said, I still fear rejection. It's still a fear. But when I can push myself day in and day out to face it head on and use it to my advantage, use it to create opportunities, guess what? My life is so much better. I don't go into life afraid. I don't go into life with regret. I go into life head on and I face it. And you know what? When you face rejection, guess what? It still hurts to an extent. I mean, it does. But if you can internalize it, it's so much better. Your life will be more enjoyable. You'll be happier. You won't be living in that constant fear of what other people think about you. Don't give a shit what other people think of you. Do what makes you happy. Do what you want to do, and your life will be a million times better. I promise you. Look into it. Look inside yourself. Do a self-evaluation. Figure out what needs to happen and make it happen. Give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Life Liberty RT. Hope you guys gained something out of this, and we'll see you next week.